Hi, my name's Pete. I've been fortunate enough to do some fun things with airplanes and race cars. But we're not going to talk about race cars here. We're going to go back to the beginning, and where it started was with plastic models. So let's go back to a day when I was, 4 years old, and I was homesick, and on TV came this movie, The Flying Tigers with John Wayne. A little while later, I was playing on a swing set, and I started to fantasize about flying a flying tiger and being in these dogfights, and little did I know that was a pivotal moment that was going to set me up for the rest of my life. It sparked an interest in aviation, in history, ultimately in art, in illustration, graphic design, building things. I mean, it was absolutely a pivotal moment in my life. And when I was about 6 years old, my dad actually bought a Revell 1/32 scale P-40 model, and he mostly built it. I'm sure I helped a little bit, but I was too young for it. And I remember taking it into kindergarten. I was so proud of that, and a kid accidentally broke it, and I was crestfallen. But this movie and this model were absolutely instrumental in everything that happened in the rest of my life. So I'd like to take you kind of through a journey of exploring that model and building it in the modern age as I become 60 years old. And let's look at not just sort of model building, the history of model building, but also the impact something like model building can have in someone's life. You know, you never know what's going to spark the interest. And this was a pivotal thing that sparked so many interests in me, I thought I would share it with you. Now let's take a look at the kit itself. First thing, and most noticeable, is the fantastic box art. I mean, this was the stuff of dreams for a young kid, getting interested in military aviation, military history. Beautifully illustrated, and puts you in the cockpit of that plane. I mean, this is a huge thing that attracted me to these models. It was a huge part of why I became a graphic designer and illustrator, and just had an appreciation for art. I used to go to the library and pull out, there were amazing books at the time with illustrations of World War II and World War I airplanes and dogfights, and it was just incredible. On the side, some details. It's got an engine, which was pretty cool as a kid. Actual cockpit interior, which was not all that common, and auxiliary fuel tank. Cool little description to get you into it. And on the other side, there's an ad for some of their other really cool kits, including the Spitfire there and the Messerschmitt. Again, amazing box art. Look at that Spitfire. 109 going by, banking to attack, contrails in the background. I mean, this is heady stuff. All right, so let's open the box and look in there. I got this kit off of eBay, and it was in excellent condition. I was very happy with it. The very first thing that comes out here is the decal sheet, or decal sheet, as they say in England. We always had decals. These are incredible. As a kid, these were fascinating to me. Everything about the design, the graphics, the illustration just resonated with me. And this plane in particular, of course, with the shark's mouth and the tiger there that was designed by Disney, is just incredible. Now, these are old and they're yellowed and they've got issues, but I'm going to work with them. We'll see what we can do. I made in thinking about what to do with these kits, I decided to build them absolutely out of the box as they came. I'm not going to modify things unless it's fixing a damage. So we'll see how these decals work when we get there. Next up is the Revell Modelers Club. Now, I'm pretty sure I did this back in the day. I think I signed up for it. It was $2. This is copyrighted 1977. So this would have been around the last time I built one of these models. The first time being with my dad in 1969. I'm pretty sure at one point I signed up for this and I got in trouble because I couldn't keep up with the payments. That was something that happened quite a bit as a kid with these kind of subscription things. But anyway, it's pretty cool. And then we have the instructions. Now this is copyright 1967. So this is when these were originally designed, and they weren't updated until much later. So this is the original design. And the kit is basically, the one that I have is unchanged from 1967 to 1977. I don't think they made any changes to it at all. Cool history here, information about the plane. Now, one of the interesting things here is that the historical references, as we know today, books with all kinds of incredible detail and photos, that stuff didn't exist back when this model was made. So really what you had to do was find an actual flyable plane, which there weren't very many of, and do your model, your research from there. So you'll see, especially with markings and stuff, historical mistakes, but you can see here that they're acknowledging the plane that and the author that helped them produce this. We open this up. Really nicely designed and laid out instructions. Now, again, for the age I was when I was building these, which is, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, these were quite complicated models. And what's interesting for me is partly that these instructions sort of sparked my interest in technical illustration. I did a lot of illustration as a kid. Professionally, I ended up doing a lot of illustrations. Funnily enough, technical illustrations of engines, suspensions, things like that for the auto industry. But the other thing I realized in hindsight, a couple of things. One is that as a little kid, learning to follow fairly complicated directions. But for me, what was important is these are visual instructions. I'm a visual thinker. This text doesn't mean much to me. I never had a problem with reading comprehension or anything, but I don't think in words. I think in pictures. So a medium where I was able to follow visual instructions was super important. And later, as I became a visual designer trying to communicate things, I tried to do them as visually as possible. So this was a huge part of that. Great instructions, very clear. Remember, back in this day, there was no computers. Everything's hand-drawn with rapidograph pens and artboards and everything. So great instructions, very thorough, with at the end, how to put the decals on. The canopy does slide on this model, and the landing gear retracts, which is, again, we're going back to the fact that these were as much toys as they were scale models. The landing gear retraction mechanism is here, and so it will rotate and pivot back into the wing, which was just super fun as a kid. I mean, these were really great toys that you built yourself. So yeah, we played with Legos and things like that, Lincoln Logs, all that stuff was great. But this was on a kind of higher level of complexity because you had to glue it and paint it, and it was more fiddly because you had all very small parts to deal with. So great instructions. And now let's go back to the actual model kit. So this is in good condition. There's not too many parts off the sprues, which is nice. You can see the fuselage sides. These are very good. Slide that out of the way. They're not perfect. There's some marks here and stuff, but honestly, it's funny, get super obsessed about the plastic and then end up weathering the heck out of it. So honestly, I don't care. The biggest issue is, cleaning that stuff up to put it together. But it has rails for the sliding canopy. How cool is that for a kit that was first made and designed in 1967? There's fish plating here on the panels, so that's really cool. You know, these planes did have fish plated. Basically, the panels overlap slightly. They're not flush for aerodynamics, and they do have very tiny flush rivets on here, which is accurate. I read an article, or saw an article where somebody put this onto scale drawings and did an analysis, and it was actually very close. The biggest issue being the ailerons weren't quite right. And then on the inside, this is where you're going to see through the wheel wells. There's no detail in there, but all in all, you know, these were not crummy kits even by today's standards. There were some crummy kits. I remember the company Aurora in particular made some stuff that was, even as a kid, I recognized was just not very good. Don't come off. I want to keep that together. So, you know, nicely detailed instrument panel there. There's no decals for that, so that's going to have to be dealt with paint, which is fun enough. Again, bottom of the wings, nicely fish plated. You know, not too much in the way of weird casting mold stuff, so not a lot of cleanup to do there. These models were, in the day, I remember vividly, were $2.25. The little monogram 148 scale models were about $1. So these were considerably more expensive and more complex. It took a while to save up that much money when, you know, allowances were 25, 30 cents a week. So this was a big deal to get one of these. And pretty much all my money as a kid went into plastic models. I can't think of too many other things I spent money on. So pilot figure, that's going to be fun. And fabric control surfaces. So these have a little bit of, they have an indication of fabric, which I have modeled in the past and then realized when I got into real planes, this stuff gets doped so heavily you never see that. But that's okay. It's cool. It's a little attention to detail. The tires, not so much. That was kind of a common thing to have sort of just solid round tires in these kits. Good engine detail, side of the cockpit. We're going to have fun with that. And only a couple parts off of the sprues here. The supercharger and the seat. You didn't have PE parts. You didn't have seat belts. That kind of stuff did not come with models back in the day. If you had to make that stuff, you had to make it yourself. There wasn't whole catalogs of aftermarket parts available for models. And then nice canopy, again sliding. It mounts to a thing to slide. Good quality, good condition. A little bit of distortion. I mean, it's not as good as modern models, but it's perfectly fine. So hopefully you'll like and subscribe and join me for part 2. I'm going to begin building this model. I've also got 3 of the original monogram 148 scale models that I'm going to do similar videos on. So hopefully you enjoyed this and you'll follow along with the next builds.